That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality. Anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank.
People are going to be doing what they always do when the economy tanks. They will be blaming immigrants and corporate.
This country has proven resilient based on the fact that its foundation is the age of reason.
America is just now coming to grips with what unfolded here in the early morning hours here in Orlando.
In this city, thousands of demonstrators marched to protest the death of Eric Garner.
Breaking news, a fresh act of madness. The snipers hit 11 police officers.
Gun sales in this country are spiking in the aftermath of the San Bernardino terror attack.
We're bringing it on ourselves. And that's the thing. Al-Qaeda, all those guys, ISIS, they're not compared to the damage that we can do to ourselves on a regular basis.
Welcome to the Age of Reason podcast with Mike and Alex, where we are not for the faint of thought. This is our final episode of the year, and it's our anniversary episode, and episode number 50. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's crazy. I was thinking about it, this time last year when we were kind of getting started and putting everything together. And it's been a busy year, not just with the podcast, but with politics and life in general. But it's been this. I'm glad we got together and working on this project. It's been fun, and I look forward to continuing it. But yeah, a year already. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because we have some other stuff coming up that we're not going to announce. You guys are going to have to wait until early next year. Hopefully on episode 1 we'll have some announcements of some stuff that myself and Alex and Nick and Crystal Cravens, who you guys will hear on an interview here later. We got some announcements coming up, so it's awesome that it's grown into this, and then this podcast is growing into I don't want to give anything away, but something much bigger than what you and I think ever really anticipated. I remember in October, you and I were like, hey, shit, we have an anniversary coming up. We have like our first anniversary show. We should do something huge. And I think this interview that we got coming up later is going to make for a good kind of season finale for the first year. But December kind of snuck up. I mean, I totally forgot. I wasn't even thinking about this being the anniversary show till earlier today.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun.
Or not.
Well,
in recent months.
Yeah, the last month's been a little rough, but we're trying to find some silver lining, I guess, and out of that all and move forward.
Yeah, well, let's get to it. What do we got for news?
Well, news, it's pretty slow this week. It's a lot of politics stuff's pretty much going on. The one thing I do have that's international news is in Cairo, Egypt, a Coptic Christian church, which is a minority. I think it's like 10% of the population. Egypt's majority Muslim country. A church was bombed. 25 people were killed. ISIS is taking responsibility for it. The reason I'm bringing this up is it's another one of those things that, like when the Charlie Hebdo thing went on, it was like everybody was all for France and stuff like that. And I just haven't seen, this is 25 people killed. Yeah. I just haven't seen this one not advertised, but, the public being informed on this specific incident too often. And I don't know if it's because we're numb to Middle Eastern violence or right. Whatever, but I thought it was at least worth mentioning that, there's still terrorist attacks that are going on, weekly across the world. So that one was in Egypt.
Maybe I know I've brought this reference up before, and it's probably because I'm a bigger nerd than I like to admit, but it reminds me of that scene from The Dark Knight when the Joker says, you tell the people some gangbangers are going to get shot. Nobody cares. Why? Because it's all part of the plan. And I think that's what it is. You expect to hear these things come out from the Middle East. But I think another part of that too, the difference between this attack and as you compared it to like Charlie Hebdo was, yes, France is part of the free world and the developed world, and we don't expect those things. But also, that was not just an attack on Charlie Hebdo; that was an attack on free speech. And I think for me, that's how I took it. That was a little difference there.
Yeah, I mean, I see that, but it's still a religious group. Oh, I'm sorry. The one thing that I forgot to mention, this is ISIS's war on apostates. That's what they call it. So that's why I kind of put them together. It is a little different, I see, but it's the same kind of. It's the apostates, people who either disrespect Muslims or don't bow down to them. We're basically at war. So.
I think they should have a war on prostates and just shove this bullshit back up their ass. That's what I think.
Oh, I'm for that one. Speaking of war, the next piece that I have is about the Pentagon bearing an internal study that showed $125 billion in administrative waste. $125 billion. Jesus Christ.
I don't remember the figure off the top of my head, but I calculated what it would cost to send everybody from the ages of like 18 to 22. And I think I did this on one of our episodes a while back, to send them all to college. I was comparing it to gun costs, and it was under that number. And that's 4-year tuition for everybody ages 18 to 22.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's just an astounding number. And, reading the articles about it, it's interesting because typically, the right wing or Republicans will talk about government waste. Government can't do nothing right, blah, blah, blah. You guys all just want free jobs. And but they'll defend the military. That's their two things. Number one, make fun of the government, say the government's useless, but defend the military.
So we're going to be useless along with it. Protest.
So in this case, I mean, it's basically the military, the Pentagon, having too many jobs. I mean, they just are paying people too much administrative fees, all this kind of, I mean, just unnecessary that third-party groups have came in and said, oh, you're spending all this unnecessary $125 billion. I mean, that's a drop in the bucket right there.
And again, we wouldn't be complaining about military spending if that $125 million would be going to our vets and protecting the soldiers. It'd be a really hard argument to have about government waste if more of it was going to the soldiers.
And one thing that I did see is the Pentagon was afraid if this report came out that the White House, because this report initially came out last year. So they're saying if it would have been released and publicized, Obama potentially could have used it to take more cuts to the Pentagon, which, I mean, obviously would not have been a bad idea if you have this much waste. But they basically hid the article and kind of, minimized it to minimize the impact that it would have had on their budget. So I guess cover your own ass.
Exactly.
And then the last thing I have, it's not news per se, like an incident happened, but I was reading an article about the potential conflicts. Well, it's not potential. In South Sudan, basically almost like a genocide kind of going on there. Pretty similar to what happened in Rwanda, another part of Africa. South Sudan it's the newest country in the world. I think in 2011 is when it got granted its independence from Sudan, and basically it's just been, I mean, there's I think 25 different ethnic minorities over there, and they got together to win their independence, and basically right now after they've got their independence, it's just a civil war between them. So it's a sad situation over there. Hopefully, the United Nations and the United States, other countries get together and try to, minimize that. But there's a potential for genocide going on in Rwanda. So hopefully,
or South Sudan.
Oh yeah, sorry, South Sudan. Yeah, thank you.
I got something in regards to the death penalty. A man in Alabama who is sentenced to death by lethal injection. It didn't go so well. The man stayed alive, suffering for 13 minutes. That's all I have on this. Just putting it out there because this is another problem on why the government should not be in charge of murder. We need to kind of. I was thinking about this earlier. Coin one of those sentences that just like proves your point initially, and just basically say there is no humane way to murder somebody. We can try all we want, whether it's an electric chair, hanging, lethal injection, firing squad, or going all the way back to the guillotine, which was also thought to be the most humane way to kill somebody at the time. There's no humane way to murder. And this is proof. I mean, the guy was alive for 13 minutes. Yeah, that's got to suck. What I don't know is if the paralysis injection had been in him or not. Because imagine suffering and not being able to scream or move.
Yeah, I mean, I'm imagining that they would have gave him, all the required shots or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's another case against the death penalty. It's been used less and less over the years. But my liberal state of California had the opportunity to ban it, and it didn't work. So, I mean, clearly we got a long ways to go on this issue, but we are making some ground. But I mean, when you hear about cases like this, yeah, it just obviously, to me, it just put that one, as an example to show people like this. It's not what you think. It's not somebody just goes in a room, they flip a switch, and they die. This is, I mean, the government killing somebody, and yeah, there's no right way to do it.
Life in prison would have been a very fitting sentence, but
cheaper.
And yes, and cheaper. A lot of people don't understand how that's cheaper, but hey, with our Pentagon losing $125 billion, I mean, it's not to say that we know how to manage money well.
Yeah, that's true.
So up next, we got Trump's cabinet. What's going on there?
Holy shit, what is going on here?
Yeah, I think that's what even the right wingers are asking that question. What the fuck?
Yeah, so I guess let me start off with who's not on the cabinet. So Rudy Giuliani has withdrew his name from Secretary of State and any other potential cabinet position. So that was one of Trump's big dogs.
Which is a shame because I'm sure that position came with dental care, and he could have really used that on his bottom rack. I'm telling you.
So another one of Trump's big boys who is not given a position is Mr. Newt. Mr. Gingrich doesn't appear to be taking any prominent positions in the Trump cabinet, unfortunately.
I thought you said big boy. I thought you meant Christie.
Oh, he's next. Christie. So this one's a little different. He reportedly turned down several positions, including the ambassador of Italy, which I imagine, I mean, a guy like him.
Yeah, the secretary of hostess.
It's like it's the pasta ambassador. Oh no, I mean Italy ambassador.
Yeah, his cabinet position is filled with hostess products.
Oh, the big ravioli they call him. So the last one that didn't make get a spot in there is our good friend Sarah Palin. Who she was one of his first supporters, if you remember. She came out early.
Yes.
I think
rollers. Yeah.
I want to say I forgot, but yeah. So she wrote an op-ed about Trump's cabinet and accusing him of crony capitalism. So she severed all ties, sounds like, with Donald Trump.
How is that when she breaks up with you? Damn.
But so there is something that all those people had in common. although they were all big Republican proponents of Donald Trump, none of them were big donors. And it appears that's what you have to be to get into Trump's cabinet. So we'll start off with Mr. Rex Tillerson. You start on the top.
Yeah.
I know you got a little bit on him. I got some, just that his only job has been at ExxonMobil.
Yep.
Started there, I think, in the 70s. He was in charge. He's a CEO currently, who is reportedly getting a golden parachute of about $150 million when he leaves ExxonMobil. So it's not like money's an issue. And
he could have got more if he worked for Wells Fargo, though.
Yeah, that's true, and which is interesting because I would think ExxonMobil would be a little more profitable, but I guess I'm sure he's got some back end incentives after his Secretary of State deals go through that help ExxonMobil. I'm sure he'll get a little kickback at the end.
Well, especially with Putin, which is his cozy little relationship with Putin since 1999, and that's out of his mouth. He's got the right wingers. Also, this is one of the things I was talking about when the right wing is now going, what the hell?
He has close ties with Putin in Russia. He was actually given an award by Putin.
Annual KGB awards.
Exxon, it's a shirtless figurine of Putin.
That's just him and his horse.
Shooting a bear. So actually ExxonMobil had a big deal going on with Russia at the time that they annexed Crimea, and because of United States sanctions later imposed on Russia, that deal got canceled. So Mr. Tillerson has been quoted as saying he's not a big fan of sanctions. So,
of course not.
Let's take these Russian sanctions off the table. ExxonMobil gets their big deal back. Everybody's happy. The only other thing, I'm not sure what you got on, but the last thing I'll say about this is somebody who didn't get this nomination is Mr. Mitt Romney. And Roger Stone, a pretty close Trump ally, went on InfoWars.
Alex Jones.
That great, news source. And he said that Trump only interviewed Romney to torture him. That's
great.
Because of the way Romney came out, and I was proud of Romney for a while. He put his big boy pants on and took it to Trump. Several times.
He packed up and went on the move. He loaded his car, put his dog on top of it, and went in front of the press and just started blasting him. And that was when I had. I mean, I don't know what like the smallest fraction is, but a billionth a shred of respect for Ted Cruz and what he did at the RNC convention just to follow up with pillow talk for Donald Trump over the phone to potential voters. And I was really hoping Romney would get this because I don't worry about Romney screwing relations. I worry about Romney being a greedy politician. And obviously I disagree with his conservative views on economic policy, but I was actually relieved to hear that he was possibly going to be Secretary of State.
Over Giuliani or, something like that, yeah.
Well, with these cabinet members you're mentioning right now, as you and I were talking before we started recording, I would give, maybe not anything, but I would love to have Giuliani and Romney in higher positions of his cabinet compared to what we're about to get.
Yes, definitely. So, Mitt Romney, and I mean, think about what that does for people's perception of Mitt Romney. How can anybody respect him now after coming out so harshly against him? They have the famous picture of last week or the week before of the two of them having a $20,000 dinner or something.
The look on Romney's face.
But
he had the Christie going on, Mr. Trump. I don't want to put this in my mouth.
That's just man, how can you respect somebody like that? He who after talking all that shit was like, "Hey, Mr. Trump, can I have a job?" Uh, insane. So speaking of insanity,
Well, wait, hold on, Rex.
Oh, go ahead.
So here's some stuff I dug up on Rex here. So yes, Rex has been involved in ExxonMobil, which is the largest fossil fuel company in the world. They have shit all over the place.
50 countries, yeah.
Yeah. So back in the 1980s, ExxonMobil did extensive research into climate change with real scientists, not scientists like Todd Aiken, but actual scientists.
Like Ken Ham, right?
Yeah, like that guy. Bananas and sperm from a rapist. That's what the right wingers know most about. Bananas and vaginas, apparently. So
they go together.
Wow, actually, I wasn't even trying. I wasn't even trying to stick that. There it goes again. So back in 1977. They started working with scientists, and it came out to that company, to ExxonMobil, that we need to make drastic changes to the fossil fuel industry due to this new thing, climate change. Now, climate change has been around since 1950, back when it was called global warming. And they said there's a lot of evidence here that this is, most likely man-made. So ExxonMobil spent a shit ton of money researching this. They even hooked up sensors to an oil tanker and sent it onto the ocean to measure carbon emissions. And they got all the evidence they needed to find out exactly how much damage they were doing to the environment, them and other, basically what fossil fuels was doing to the environment. And they had a debate about whether or not they should change their ways. Instead, they started launching smear campaigns against anybody that talks about climate change, and they became climate change deniers.
And the same thing kind of as the Pentagon, where they hid the they don't release the studies. They sit on them.
We don't have time to get into it today, but also the same thing is going on with the DNC and the RNC when a Senate and House committee sat down and talked about. What we know now, which is the CIA released a report that Russia has influenced this past election. They had this information back in October, but Mitch McConnell said, "Don't you dare release this. You're going to sway the election." Well, son of a bitch. See what happens. But the major point, going back to ExxonMobil and Mr. Tillerson here, the bigger point is all these people that wanted the country ran like a business and they wanted deal makers. The business is not yours, and the deals are not for you. These guys, ExxonMobil has been one of the largest proponents, along with Tillerson himself, in promoting the denial of climate change and basically parading the fossil fuel industry, even though they were the first fossil fuel company to actually confirm that they are doing damage to the environment. Perfect.
Yep, sounds about right. And it's. This man is going to be Secretary of State with no government experience. When I was reading an article that said the only other time that's been the case where somebody's been nominated for Secretary of State with no experience was under the very liberal President Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. And by the way, you guys can look all this up. This story was just search Tillerson. The story was published on theecologist.org. And it was actually written, I don't have the name in front of me, but it was written by a Pulitzer Prize winner.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff about him. That's just a quick synapse. But, I mean, basically, yeah, this guy is going to be in charge of Secretary of State, going to be making deals with other countries. And I wouldn't be shocked if one or two of those deals happens to benefit ExxonMobil.
Just happens to.
Coincidentally.
Yeah.
Speaking of coincidentally, so Donald Trump is a billionaire to some extent.
Maybe.
Yeah, potentially. There's also, so far, he's added 3 other billionaires to his cabinet. And I guess, I don't know. I mean, if I had the position that these guys have where I'm anti-government and trying to get, and I had this first guy, Wilbur Ross, is a $2.5 billion net worth.
Yep.
I would just retire. I mean, like, what the hell? Stay home, spend time with your family.
No,
You know,
you're missing the point. Donald Trump can do that, but he cares so deeply about this country.
That's oh man. So this guy Wilbur Ross, he's gonna be in charge. He's a nominee for the Commerce Department.
Yep.
So he's been an investment banker, venture capitalist kind of person.
All the stuff that we didn't want to see Hillary do. God damn it.
Yeah, the swamp's definitely cleaner now.
Draining into the cabinet is what it's doing.
But the interesting thing about this guy, and almost every single one of these cabinet positions that we're going to speak on, there's something that's either ironic or just flat out just like you read it and you're just like, oh my God. The thing with this guy is when Trump was losing the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, this guy was an investment banker at the time for the Rothschilds Incorporated. I mean, it's
one
almost
of the five of the cartel that started the Great Depression on purpose.
It's almost like this was written by like a left-wing conspiracy theorist, right?
But it wasn't.
It wasn't. So this guy working for the Rothschild as an investment banker went to Atlantic City, met Donald Trump. The Rothschild's bank wanted to take control of the Taj Mahal back from Trump because he wasn't making his payments. Surprise, surprise. But this guy, Wilbur Ross, back then stood up for Trump and said the Trump name still has value. So he negotiated a deal where Trump was able to stay in control, and they moved on from there. The board from the Rothschilds afterwards said it was a bad deal. We don't know why the hell we negotiated with Trump. So basically, here's his payoff, right? So this guy helped Trump several years back. Hey, you want to be in charge of the Commerce Department?
I guess he never forgets.
It's yours.
Yeah.
So the next billionaire, Betsy DeVos. She married into money. I think her husband's parents have the Amway company, but she's a billionaire by marriage. She's also a former Republican Party chair in Michigan. So I'm not going to tell you what position she's nominated for, but let me just give you a quick background about her.
Wait, you're going to tell us eventually, though, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
No, I'm sure you'll be able to guess after I make a couple points, but
all right.
So she's a huge proponent of charter schools and other choices.
Oh no.
So for over 20 years, she's been lobbying for charter schools and for alternative choices to public schooling. So her family this summer gave $25,000 a day to fight a bill that would create some oversight for charter schools, because the state that she's from, Michigan, a majority actually of the charter schools, when tested for proficiency, test lower than public education schools. So basically, I mean, you have people in Michigan, what she's fought for is people can say, oh, how much public education was going to cost my son $4,000 this year. So if you just write me a check for $4,000, I'll take it to this Christian charter school, and then the public school doesn't get the money, and the school of my choice gets it. The problem then, which we've talked about before, is these charter schools don't have the same kind of standards as public schools.
Like, for instance, teachers, they're supposed to get something. What is it? They're not required there. Oh, yeah, accreditation, right?
Credentials. Who needs credentials?
Yeah, credentials. Who needs that shit?
Yeah, so she is going to be in charge of come on.
Oh, man, you left... It's different. Yeah, I'm gonna guess Department of Education.
So this lady who's against public education basically
is going to be in charge of public education.
Is in charge of it.
There seems to be a trend within these issues, or within these appointments that are also issues. I didn't misspeak there. That was correct. One of the people you're probably about to go over is Rick Perry, right? So, Mr. Perry, former governor of Texas, remember back in when they were running in 2012, Rick Perry said, "Well, I'm gonna cut 3 departments, and it's gonna be this, that. And number 1, I'm gonna cut this. Number 2, I'm gonna cut that. And number 3, he actually pulled his notes out to look for what he couldn't remember, and that was the Department of Energy. And what's he being appointed to?
Yeah, the Department of Energy. Yeah,
the one he couldn't fucking remember. Jesus.
And yeah, it's. I mean, talk about comedy, right? I mean, that clip is still kind of classic.
Comedy was looking at Herman Cain shake his head as this whole ordeal was going on the debate stage, and everybody's like, I don't know who said it, but somebody said it. You can't tell because the camera's on him. I think it might have been the moderator. Went, oh no.
It's like, you have 3 things to remember.
And he actually said, Rick Perry actually said, oops.
Yeah.
Shucky ducky. God damn it.
Oh man. Okay, so let's see. So the last billionaire that's been appointed. So a billionaire in charge of a gigantic entertainment organization, the Worldwide Wrestling. I don't know what it's called now. WWE, I think. World Wrestling Entertainment. Linda McMahon.
Oh my God. Oh my God. This is a blast from the past right there.
You've been holding on to that one.
I have. Actually, it was funny. So you and I, when we were much younger, probably around the age of 10 or so, we used to watch WWE, or F back then, every Monday and Thursday night. In the beginning it was just on Mondays, but we were avid watchers of wrestling till about junior high school. And that was just the first thing that I remember, that I thought of when I read this. I saw her and I'm like, no, that's not. And I had to Google it, and I'm like, oh my God. My left eye got really small. I was wearing a cowboy hat all of a sudden. It was weird.
Yeah, so between her and her husband, they donated $6 million to the Trump campaign. So, get you a nice job.
Well, I was talking to somebody. They made a good suggestion. We should, Trump should appoint The Rock to Attorney General so we can all smell what he's cooking. I think that'd be a good idea.
That's not a bad idea.
Actually, I like The Rock. I like Dwayne Johnson. I think he's a nice guy.
I mean, I'd rather have him probably than Linda McMahon. But, yeah, in charge of the small business association. We'll see how that goes. I'm sure she has lots of experience running small businesses.
Yeah. Not the monopoly that is the WWF, which bought WCW, its number 1 competitor, and then the smaller competitor, ECW. Can you name a different, I mean, I don't keep up with it now, but a different wrestling organization?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that sounds like a monopoly to me.
Yep. Small business.
So
I got a couple more, but first I have a quick quote from Ron Bonjean, a Republican strategist. So this is a reflection of what Trump has been wanting to do, to take the establishment and shake it upside down. So these are all this whole cabinet so far. That's basically.
So this is all part of the plan.
This is all part. This is draining the swamp.
Yep.
So I got some more swamp things over here.
maybe that's his the reason for his skin color. He's been bathing in that swamp.
So let's see. So Scott Pruitt, a leading advocate against the Environmental Protection Agency, one of the other agencies that Rick Perry wanted to get rid of, by the way. So he said himself he has an activist agenda. He's repeatedly sued the agency. He's going to be head of the Environmental Protection Agency. And he's said that this agency shouldn't be in the business of writing regulations. I think that's their whole business. I don't know what else they could possibly do. So,
I got
couple
nothing.
more.
I mean, that's
It's,
what more can you
that's-
say?
I mean, yeah, exactly. I got a couple more real quick. Tom Price, head of the Human Health Services. The problem isn't that there isn't enough government involved in healthcare, but there is too much. So there's
Said
that.
20 million people who actually have healthcare now, but whatever.
So this one we talked about, and he said, "I'm not qualified to hold any government position."
Right.
Was the position he took 2 weeks ago when we were talking about it.
Are we talking about probably comatose, Mr. PC?
Yes.
Yeah.
He has been nominated for the Housing and Urban Development, and he's obviously
There better
accepted.
be a lot of bread in these houses. Because if they're anything, if he treats them like the pyramids, everybody's gonna have bread in their fucking houses.
So I mean, this one's just funny because he basically came out 2 weeks ago and said, "I'm not qualified. I have no government experience. Please don't ask me to run any government agencies." And he's
I don't want to
changed his
cripple
mind.
the president.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we're talking
yeah.
about Ben Carson, by the way, in case nobody's picked up
Oh,
on
so, yeah.
that.
I'm sorry. Yeah. My luggage. Okay, so last one I got, and this one I have a personal beef with, and that's Andy Putster. And the reason I have a personal beef is because this bastard was the CEO of Hardee's, which owns Carl's Jr. Carl's Jr. second to In-N-Out, which has religious hangups, but they're still a good burger. Carl's Jr. was my second best California burger. I have boycotted Carl's Jr. because of this Andy Putster. Because last year he said that if minimum wage is going to go to $15, he's going to start employing robots. So he's in charge of
Labor, right?
labor.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. And I'm not even getting angry anymore. I think it's because I kind of expect it, but what?
I just think that, I mean, you almost have to get angry because all of these people are so against the things that they're put in charge of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing if somebody like the Tea Party, they say, we don't give a shit. We're not really going to govern. We're just going to be here. That's one thing. But these guys like actively work against the agency that they're in charge.
I think what it is, though, for me, I want to move forward. I'm trying to just accept that these things are happening and that more things are going to happen between now and the 20th. Like, Obama seems to have some confidence that Trump may start attending and actually listening to intelligence briefings. I think I think he's taken his whole hope slogan a little too far with that, but I'm just...
He's too smart for him, goddammit.
Yes, he did say he's too smart. He found them repetitive and not very useful. And Michael Moore
they're not
had a good,
interesting enough.
Yeah,
Not a
they're
tweet.
not. And he knows more than they do anyway. But Michael Moore went on a rant on the late night Seth Meyers show about how there's an actual photograph of George Bush being handed an intelligence briefing that contained the information of, hey, Al Qaeda is looking to attack the U.S. and they're probably going to use planes. And he was fishing. And look what happened. So, yeah. But, again, like I said, I'm at the point right now where I just kind of want to move forward, and that gets into some other stuff that we're working on right now. That's what I'm focusing on. It's not that I don't care. It's just, I said this before on here, kind of in the heat of the election season, that if people don't wise up, I've said it, we're going to get what we deserve. And part of me is just like, good job, America. This is what you get. So we will continue fighting against it. But for right now, nothing can be done at this moment. What?
Just real quick, just to strengthen your point, I almost sent you a clip of of Donald Trump basically saying that, and he basically thanked black people for not coming out to vote for Hillary, for not voting. He said it's basically a vote for me, not voting. Thank you. Basically, it's what he said. We won bigly with African Americans, 8%. And then he said, but many more that chose, they were not sure, so they stayed home and didn't vote.
Yep.
Thank you. That helped me.
He says thank you, and I say fuck you, Colin Kaepernick and Kanye West, who just had a meeting with Trump earlier today at Trump Tower. I think Trump's opening a cabinet position for like Secretary of Fashion or something. There's gonna be Yeezus all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, from what he's done so far, he would probably put him in charge of quality music.
Department of Music, or oh no, what would be great is the position escapes me. Press secretary. That way he could Taylor Swift all the fucking reporters. That'd be great.
I like that one. I like that.
Mr. West, I'm gonna let you finish. Trump is the greatest president of all time. Fuck Beyonce. Anyway, so we got to get to some other stuff here. So, I did an interview with somebody. She doesn't really like the word activist too much. I'm gonna call her that because a different word escapes me. But she is highly involved in all different types of groups, ranging from Black Lives Matter to LGBT rights to veterans organizations, and she's all around. She's all about what we're doing, and we're all about what she's doing. And here's the interview. Take a listen. What's up, guys? This is Mike with AOR Podcast. We have a interview that we're doing today with Crystal Cravens. Crystal, how you doing?
I'm doing outstanding. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm glad we're getting this done finally. I've been looking forward to this. We want to, obviously the world's a weird place right now. We want to get your take on it.
Well, I appreciate you guys working with me and taking time to speak with me today. I appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. So let's go ahead and get started. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, and just kind of who you are as a person?
My name is Crystal. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri, born and raised there. I joined the military in 2005. I was stationed in Georgia, New York, and then my final duty station was at Fort Carson, where I ETS'd in 2009. I have a 7-year-old son who is also autistic. I have a pug and I have a cat. I love cats. I'm the quote-unquote crazy cat lady. I have 17 tattoos. I love to sing. I love reading. I love writing. And I consider myself a very socially conscious person. The word activist gets thrown around a lot, and I try to say that I want to be socially present and in the moment because I am one individual who is a member of my community that is simply trying to affect change and draw attention to issues that are happening on a national as well as a global scale and affect change in a positive and effective way.
So that's awesome. And what community is that, if you don't mind saying?
Oh, I currently am residing in Colorado Springs, Colorado. It's beautiful.
So you mentioned activism. So what activist groups do you belong to?
I work with several different groups. I'm a pretty intersectional person. So, I have done work with Black Lives Matter. I have done work with United We Dream. I've done work with currently right now, my main focus is with Common Defense PAC. We are a group of veterans. We are all from different walks of life. We all have served our country different mediums. Like, we're all from different branches. We have Air Force, Navy, Marines, Army. All of us are different. We all are different ethnicities. However, all of us are using our veteran status to try to level the playing field and say, hey, I know that we're patriots and we are patriotic and we served our country, but also we understand that this country is not perfect. We are a great nation and we have some amazing things that we have achieved. However, there is still a lot of room for change and for advocacy. So We are a group of veterans that are trying to affect change nationwide. So currently, my main focus is with Common Defense PAC.
I want to start off by asking if there was a specific event that that propelled you into activism, not necessarily Black Lives Matter or anything in particular, but was there an event that made you want to get involved and do something more than just share your opinions on Facebook like the rest of the people in between, photos of their food and stuff?
Yes. For me, it was very difficult to get to get my start in activism, because I was trying to find in my local community people that I could lean on, that could guide me and show me what I had to do. It was after Alton Sterling and Philando Castile. They were both unfortunately murdered at the hands of police forces. I continued to see these African American individuals murdered on the news, and I kept getting tagged in these images and these graphics that were horrifying to me. I saw it, and I make posts that are very strong worded. I'm a very vocal person. I'm a very unapologetic individual about my opinions online. And I just got tired, because I said, what am I actually doing on a community level? Within my community, that was not even covered on the local news. In Colorado Springs, it was not covered on the local news. So I put it on Facebook. One day I just put on Facebook, hey, we're going to have a prayer vigil. This isn't about anti-police. This isn't about anything. This is just about saying, hey, let's not forget their names. My oldest brother, who was murdered when he was 24 years old in Kansas City, Missouri, he died at the hands of another individual in Kansas City, Missouri. But one thing that I will never forget is that people did not remember his name. They just were like, your brother died. So for me, it was important that we did not forget these individuals' names. So we had a prayer vigil in Acacia Park in Colorado Springs. I invited people on my Facebook. I assumed that my friends were going to go. So I thought it was going to be about 5 of us. We had several hundred people that came out, because they said that they were desperate to want to be a part of this movement of change. The local news came out, and this was unfortunately the same day as the shooting in Dallas, where they had the Black Lives Matter vigil, and then there was the Dallas shooting. And so it was good, because there were people that were hungry for just some type of physical presence in this movement. And it also was a call to me to an awakening within Colorado Springs. It's very conservative. It's a very laid back area. However, there's still a lot of issues that are going on a national scale that we sometimes turn a blind eye to, because it's like, well, if it's not affecting us, but it did. It affected a lot of people that I know. It affected a lot of veterans, people that are family members of police officers that want to say, hey, we're not all like this. It was very important that we had that moment, that we were in that moment present together and united as a community, just to remember these individuals' names and acknowledge that we haven't forgotten about them, and no, this isn't okay. And no, these acts do not reflect the entire police force in the United States. These are a reflection of individuals that step outside of the guides of the law. So it was very touching for me to be present with the folks in Colorado Springs during that prayer vigil that we had. And I was very pleased to know that people had a very positive reception of me just being a member of the community. I don't have a long history of doing social activism, but that was like my moment that I said, okay, this is necessary, it's needed, and what I'm doing is important.
Why do you think there is such a divide? And one thing that I think everybody does need to know is the divide between law enforcement and all minority groups, but sticking with Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter, this is not new. It may be new to many because everybody now has a cell phone, but it's not new by any means. But why do you think it's 2016? Why do you think, in your opinion, this divide is still so just obvious and somehow not obvious to some?
Well, this divide has never gone away. If a lot of people have gotten in their comfort zone and they've gotten to live in this blissful ignorance that these things don't happen. Like you said, we have cell phones. So now we have footage, and still there is there's this cognitive dissonance of how is it that this is happening. I see that this is happening, but I cannot believe it because it hasn't happened to me. There are people that have privilege. People do not like to acknowledge this privilege. Also, the divide between Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter, this isn't from the police force and citizens, because there's this misconception that police are only white males. That's not true. The police force is populated by people of color and also white males. So when we have these conversations where people try to utilize, well, there was a black officer that shot a black male, so why is it that you're still saying Black Lives Matter? The conversation is not about white police officers versus people of color. This is about the police force being this entity that is completely unchecked, that has been militarized. They have been empowered by the state, local, and federal government to be this entity that is completely unregulated and unchecked. That's what the problem is. It has nothing to do with the races of the individuals that work within this machine. It's a fraternity of individuals that protect their own selves. So when people say Blue Lives Matter, I understand that you're a person, that you're sacrificing your life. You're putting your life on the line every single day. You get up because you want to protect and serve your community and the people that are respectively around you. However, you can take off that uniform when you leave from work. When you're a person of color, you do not have the opportunity to take that off. So absolutely, do Blue Lives Matter? Yes, they do. And there's also this conversation that a lot of people of color are having, is that when police officers are gunned down by middle-aged white men, where are the Blue Lives Matter individuals that are vocal during those moments? It's been over, I think it's between 7 and 10 police officers that have passed away within the last 2 weeks, and we have not heard a single voice from Blue Lives Matter. So my question for people when they're talking about lives mattering, this needs to be a consistent thing. I believe that people's lives matter at all times. There are police officers that risk their lives and they're good individuals. However, these individuals can go into stealth when they're off work. No one knows what they are not. When you're a person of color, you don't have that privilege. So that is why the importance of brown, Black lives mattering is so present and so important right now, because we haven't seen a call for that previously ever. People don't say, oh, we want to make sure that people of color are relevant right now. It's really, let's make sure that we continue to cushion the police force who already are protected amongst themselves.
Obviously, there's some people out there that they hear Black Lives Matter, and then all lives matter. Can you explain what's fundamentally, I guess in my opinion, what is fundamentally wrong with that being a response to the Black Lives Matter movement?
Well, I think when you say all lives matter, you're negating the fact that people of color matter. When I hear people say, someone can say white lives matter, and I say, well, technically is white a culture? And this is where it gets extremely nuanced. We have Irish Day parades. We have German festivals. We have all these festivals that celebrate white culture. When we talk about Black Lives Mattering, we have to still go back to the fact that our culture and our identities got stripped away when we were brought here. So I think there's this ideal that when people say Black, that we're trying to say that our race is superior. It's not that we're saying that we're superior. Our ethnicity and our heritage was stripped away when we were brought here. So if I knew whether I was from Ghana, the Congo, I would say Ghanaian lives matter, but I don't. All we have is what we know and what we have held on to. And we were told we went from being niggers to Negroes, and now we're Black. And so now Black folks are reclaiming that identity, and we're saying that, hey, we have a relevance. We have importance. We are intelligent. We are fluent. We are articulate. We have a presence in this country. Matter of fact, Black women are the most intelligent demographic in this country, right now in 2016. So when I'm saying that I matter, I'm not saying that my life has more value than anyone else's. I'm just saying that in relation to where I was and how I came here, you have to understand that I have a purpose more so than being subservient to a person of that has ownership of me. I have a value. My value is more than physical labor and doing the job that nobody wanted. My value is in my presence, my mind, and my state of being, is that I can contribute to the society in more ways than being a servant. So when people are saying Black Lives Matter, initially Black Lives Matter was going to be named Black Lives Matter also. But would that have caught on as well? Unlikely. So when you say Black Lives Matter, you're demanding that someone gives you the acknowledgement and the respect. Because if I say police lives matter, people can say absolutely. Doctors' lives matter, absolutely. Why is it that we have this hang up with Black lives mattering? Is it the only problem is that the Black portion of it? Because I can acknowledge that Latinx lives matter, Asian lives matter, Muslims lives matter, trans lives matter, gay lives matter, lesbian lives matter. I can say all these words. The hiccup has only been when we said that Black lives matter. I feel like it's a personal challenge to each person who calls themselves a forward thinker to challenge themselves and ask themselves, why does a Black life not matter? So it's not about saying that our lives are the only ones that matter. It's saying include us in this conversation where you're saying that everyone else's lives matter. So our lives matter as well.
What do you think needs to be done about people that probably say, I don't do politics, I don't pay attention to these things, and they feel like racism is at an all-time low, which, I mean, could be somewhat true, but doesn't need any further attention, and that's only because they aren't in a position to experience that. I mean, if you grow up in Liberalville, San Francisco, and you're not politically engaged, you may have no idea that this is going on. What can we do to help educate people that feel like racism is over, but it's because of their lack of experience and the lack of them witnessing racism firsthand?
Well, the reality of it is that a lot of people that believe that racism is over only have people that look like them in their circles. So if you're in a circle where everybody looks like you and you're a liberal individual that's from San Francisco and you're in the tech world and all your coworkers and all your friends and your entire neighborhood are white individuals, you need to check yourself and check your privilege, because why is there no one else that's brown in your circle? I understand that people are like, well, I haven't had the opportunity, but why not? Have you deliberately been placing yourself and positioning yourself in places where you would be excluded from being exposed to people of color? This isn't just about, oh, well, I live in this liberal area. So if you call yourself liberal, then why aren't you challenging your mind and challenging your existence to say, but what are other people facing? I know for myself, I grew up in the inner city. I grew up in the quote unquote hood. I know I grew up in an impoverished area. Currently now, I have done these different moves financially, educationally to get myself out of those places. I moved from where I grew up, and now I live in Colorado, and now I live in a suburb. However, I have not forgotten where I came from.
What is your advice for all of us moving forward on how to fix this, hopefully taking the first giant step in 2018?
Number one thing for me is radical acceptance. Radical acceptance entails you accepting what this is. This is who is going to be our leader. Next, there also needs to be an acceptance of what the underrepresented ethnicities are going through. There is no talking over, there is no minimizing or dismissing. Also, if you are in law enforcement and you call yourself a good cop, then you stand up and you show that. I don't want to see a YouTube video of you passing out ice cream. I don't want to see a YouTube video of you dancing and doing the nay-nay at a picnic. I want to know that when you're out on patrol, that you're not going to profile minorities, people that are brown and black. I actually want to see you challenge your white counterpart and say, they have done nothing wrong. Leave them be. Or if you see someone that is being discriminated against and they have not committed any crime, to intervene and let them go. For all of us, we all have a purpose. We all are a cog in this machine. All of us are capable of doing things. For white folks, I've told all my white friends, it is your job now to speak out. It is your job now to use your privilege to be a barrier. You need to be in the front right now. It's not about explaining what people of color go through. What your job is right now is to say, what we ain't going to do, we're not going to be racist. We're not going to use these terms. I'm not going to sit here and accept this. I'm not going to accept that we are going to give these people privilege. It's literally just interjecting and saying, okay, I have to be this person that is going to be intersectional. And you know what? After I use my privilege to be here, I'm going to step back and let everybody else do it. We got to be intersectional right now. This is not just about white folks. This is more than that. There are straight folks. As a Black woman who technically is straight, this is not about me being Black and straight. We also have to include folks that are non-binary. We have to include trans folks. We have to include everyone right now. And all of us who are underrepresented individuals of this society, of this culture, we have to all join together. As much as we hate to say it, America is one. We are one people. We are the individuals that decided to speak out against a government that was oppressing us. So whether people want to like it or not, we have to come together and we have to continue to speak out against oppressive ideologies. We are being currently oppressed. We have got to speak out and say, okay, how can we make this country greater than what it has been? Because we already been great. We have already been great. We can be greater if we unify, not only from white folks, but also from hetero folks. We've got to do this thing together. And that's where I'm at, is I'm all about, I just want to be present in all of these movements that can affect change on a larger scale. This is not just about me as a Black and Native woman. This is about me as a human being that exists in this country, and there's so much on the line. There is so much legislation. There are reproductive rights. There are civil rights. There are human rights. There are reproductive. There are all these rights that are on the line. We cannot break down into semantics. We have all got to band together and say, this is not one issue. This is a multifaceted issue that all of us need to be concerned about, and all of us are affected by. And unless all of us unify, we're defeated. There is strength in numbers. We are made great by unifying, because Abraham Lincoln said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. We have got to unify together, or our messages will fall by the wayside.
So before we get into everything else, I'll just tell everybody the rest of that interview actually lasted an hour and 15 minutes. And what I wanted to do was only put about 20 minutes on here. And this is the discussion about Black Lives Matter, a little bit about and about police and civil rights, that sort of thing. But we get into so much more than that in regards to the rise of Trump and Obama exiting the Oval Office next month. Oh God, that sucks. It sucks to say. Anyway, we cover so much more ground. The interview that you guys just heard was chopped up and edited, but you can view the unedited one also on your podcast feed. But yeah, I was excited to do this with her, and she's one of the people who are going to help us out with some upcoming stuff.
Yeah, going forward, and it was a great interview, man. Good job. That's the kind of stuff that we want to be doing more of in the future. So yeah, great job. It was a good interview. Lots of the good stuff on there. Yeah, and like I said, I look forward to working with her and people like her. Yep. Going forward.
Yeah. So, Crystal, thank you again, and I look forward to also working with you on other stuff, as well as having you back on this podcast anytime you're willing to come on and talk to us and give us your opinion. probably the episode we have right after Donald Trump will probably gets inaugurated. We'll probably have her back on. But anyway, so the last topic that we have is, it was fortunate, with this being our last show of the year and all that. And it was kind of a slow news week outside of, a few things that we went over. I didn't even want to get into the CIA thing because I don't want to get anybody's hopes up.
Yeah.
But so we're going to end this show. I don't have a giant dick for you guys today. I'm sorry. I left it at home. But what is your opinion on just this year and what it's been?
I mean, definitely, a pretty crazy year. It started last year kind of with the Bernie thing and that picking up steam. Kind of started the beginning of this year. I think I went to a rally in January. So it was just kind of a lot of volunteering, a lot of, meeting new people and stuff. To me, obviously the end result is not what we wanted, but I think we saw a lot of progress. I think a lot of different groups were able to kind of come together, and a lot of new people that haven't really been interested in politics started to take involvement, and I think definitely more so on our side than the Republican side. But the other thing is they started to dive deep into it and not just say, oh, I like what he says about this, so I'm going to vote for him. It's they did the research and they understand, okay, I like what he says about healthcare because we do pay more than any other country and our service isn't the best. I mean, there's clear things when you look at them. I mean, we have logic on our side. So I was impressed going out and meeting people, how educated, an 18-year-old high school girl was in one case, and in another case, 70-something-year-old activist. The amount of things that those people had been through. So for me, it was a good year. I met a lot of good people. I have hope that our country going forward, we can build this movement that we've talked about and bringing people together. Uniting, different groups that are kind of usually have to stand alone and fight their own battles. When we come together and help them, I think we can have a pretty good coalition. So, I mean, all we can really do is build on this last year. It sucks. I don't want to say President Trump. I don't know how I'm going to address him going forward. But, yeah. So I think there is some momentum, and I look forward, I guess, to 2017. Let's see what we can do and see how we can recover.
Yeah, and we're gonna get stuff done. 2016. I mean, I think back to the tragedies that we had to cover on here. The first big one was the Paris attacks, and that was on episode 4. And right after that, we on December 2nd, we had San Bernardino, and it was constant, just roller coaster this year, and the evolution. When you and I first talked about this, and my very first words on our very first episode was, "What's up, man?" And you said, "How you doing?" And I started off by saying I wanted to give your wife a shout out for even suggesting this to us. And this was in June of 2015. You and I were just hanging out, having a conversation. We were talking religion. And you pissed off a friend of mine because you compared God to a unicorn. And and then we didn't talk about it. And then around October, she shot us a how-to video on Facebook and said, "Get on it." So again, I'm so glad she said something, because there wouldn't have been a better year to start this podcast and everything that we're trying to do than this one. And that's because when you think back to decades that were meaningful in this country, I mean, every decade has something about it. The civil rights movement of the 60s is what always draws me to that decade. And I feel like this is the beginning of that. This is the beginning of that exact same thing. And it's a test of you can sit around and think that you're moral and think that you would speak up and think that you would do something for what you believe in, for the common good of America, the world, however you want to look at it. And now is our shot. And no matter what happens to our country or to this show or anything else, 20 years from now, I'll be able to say, I hope we're still doing this. Actually, I hope, honestly, pie in the sky, you and I are doing this on television or something like that. Like, we have moved beyond podcasts within the next 20 years. But
I hope
even if we don't, I can say, you know what? During 2015 and 2016, when this country started going to shit, there's at least a few thousand people out there that listened to us and supported us along the way. And we actually did something. We said something on the most public stage that we had available to us. And when it comes to involvement and being engaged and trying to promote positive change, I'm hoping 2017 makes 2016 look small on our end. But overall, this last year has been insane. And one of the things that, if you guys listen to the full interview between Crystal and I, we talk about how people like us, we lost twice this year. She also voted for Bernie. And we lost in the primaries, and we had to deal with that, suck it up, and vote for Hillary, and then we lost again. And for everything that Bernie Sanders did, the way he inspired me from, you drove all the way down to LA to meet me at the first rally that he had down at UCLA. Man, like, that's the saddest part about this whole year. The saddest part about this whole year is we had a third-party radical that was talking about shaking the shit out of the establishment and bringing about real change and uniting the country and not making us great again, but making us great. And we lost that. And that is the number one negative part of this entire year for me.
Yeah, I think what could have been is still definitely hurts. The good thing, though, that I've noticed is since the election, we haven't really heard Hillary Clinton too much. She came out about the fake news last week or something. Yeah. And her VP, I forgot who he is.
Tim Kaine.
He's been pretty quiet. But the one person that has been steady since this election has been Bernie. He's on weekly on the weekly shows. Last night, I meant to text you. I don't know if you caught it.
He was on Hardball, right?
He did actually a town hall with Chris Hayes in Wisconsin with mostly Trump supporters. And he basically put himself in the lines then and said, look, let's talk about it. Why did you vote for Trump? Let me tell you why, my policies. And at least one person was obvious, that this clip's kind of going viral. But there was one person who clearly at the end of a 2-minute exchange, if she would have had the chance again to vote for Bernie or Trump, obviously that was never a chance, but yeah. She understood where, she switched. Yep. And I just bought his book last week,
Me
Our
too.
Revolution.
Lindsay gave it to me as an early birthday present.
Yeah, so I got to catch
Christmas
up.
present, not birthday.
I was going to say birthday. That's actually pretty early.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got that. Got to read up on that. And he's remaining strong, remaining active, and that's encouraging.
And that's a really good point.
And times like
Where's
this, you need
that
somebody.
Candidate now? Where's your shining star? That was a sure thing. Where is she? I got to be honest. I understand. She has to be heartbroken As much as we are that Donald Trump won, period. Imagine, from her point of view, she had this in the bag. She was a sure thing. But, we were saying this back in April or May. Like, hey, if you're thinking about voting for Hillary because you don't want to risk Bernie, she's not a sure thing anymore. But that is a very good point. Where is Hillary now? Everybody's making every late night show, from Colbert to Trevor Noah to I think John Oliver made a comment on his last episode. She's in the woods. She's camping. Where's Bernie? Out stirring shit the fuck up, which is what he promised to do for us if he got elected. That to me is the biggest loss. The biggest gain, I think, is our biggest loss. I think our biggest gain can be that Donald Trump got elected. I think the biggest gain that can come from this is as we see people like John McCain, who's going against the grain a little bit, not as much as I would like to see him do it, but I think as this the party spectrum of the left and right gets stretched out as far and far as it goes, and as they start to sort of implode, which I was having a conversation with Nick earlier, and he doesn't think it's going to happen, but I disagree. I think Trump's going to fight with his senators and his House reps. And I think as that happens, I think you can't move more to the right. You got to move more to the left. And I think we may start seeing that. But I think overall, as Bernie said, the silver lining of Donald Trump being elected is hopefully we will get people more engaged and involved. And hopefully this time they stick with it and they don't let it go, because this should scare the shit out of everybody. So, you got anything else?
I think that's pretty much it. So I guess with that, wish everybody happy holidays and happy New Year. And like I said before, I look forward to working with you next year and moving forward. Not just with the podcast, but with everything else. So thank you guys all for listening, and have a good year.
Yeah, just to echo that, happy holidays. We will be back the first weekend after New Year's, which I think is around the 7th or the 8th. So stay tuned for that. We will continue being active on Facebook and Twitter and the website and all that. So continue to check back there for updates. But yeah, I'm looking forward to 2017 because it's been battles for 2016. War starts next year. And I'm looking forward to it. So stay engaged, everybody, but maybe take 2 weeks off. Do what we're doing. Take 2 weeks off from politics, because I'll tell you what, come January 20th, there ain't going to be no time for fucking around again. So with that, thanks again, everybody, for supporting us and all the newcomers that have come on. We look forward to adding more to our army next year in more ways than one. And we will see you guys first week of January. Follow us at AOR_podcast on Twitter, the Age of Reason podcast on Facebook, and for everything else, AORpodcast.com. See you guys in 2017.